So we're here today with Ella Spira, talking about the Inala Project with Ladysmith Black Mambazo. Welcome, thank you for being interviewed by us.
Thank you for having me.
And we're doing this for Rhythm Passport, the world music website and review outfit.
Khuluma na ulaleli mhlambe nizozwana mutshela indaba zakho mhlambe uzokuzwa angeke wazi khuluma naye usulo kumpalela incwadi khuluma naye usulo kumpalela incwadi khuluma naye usulo kumpalela incwadi tshele konke lokho usitshela khona tshele konke.
So my first question is about obviously yourself and Pietra Mello Pittman, if I pronounced that correctly, the Sisters Grimm production company. How did you encourage Ladysmith Black Mambazo to agree to such a bold collaboration?
Good question. I think there's a couple of things about that. It is a bold and unusual and potentially disastrous idea,
I'm sure
or
it'll be fun.
potentially really exciting. And Pietra is a dancer in the Royal Ballet and has been now for 13 and a bit years, I think. So we were able to go to them with the kudos of her having come from an area of knowledge, being in internationally one of the best ballet companies in the world. So I think that in itself means something to a group that don't know about it, because they think, well, if this person thinks that it might be something interesting to explore and they come from that background, then we should definitely consider it. And we met, and we were invited to go to their gig at where were they? Cadogan Hall,
Yeah.
and we met them afterwards, and we all got along. And then they had never been to see a show.
Must be exciting.
Oh, it was really exciting.
Yeah.
It was fabulous, and they'd never been to see the ballet before. So Tony Hall very kindly gave us tickets to take them to the Royal Ballet show Sleeping Beauty at the Royal Opera House.
Okay.
And we took them backstage, and we showed them the setup there, and the room they have for the pots of dye, and just everything. And they were really excited about it, because in the end they're artists who are passionate and interested in other artists who are operating in that same passionate area. So yeah, it was just a joining of things, and we weren't necessarily expecting them to sit through the whole ballet either, because it's long. But they wanted to watch it to the end, and they loved it. So that was exciting.
And how did you approach the fundraising process
Oh.
for the project? I mean, because it's a big project.
Yeah, that was hard. That was really hard. And we had quite a few hurdles with that. That's why it's quite interesting, actually, because it was the funding really that was the thing that meant it took so long to end up getting it to the point where we knew we had the funding to stage it. But actually, the timing of it ended up being perfect, ended up lining up with the 20 years of South African democracy. And I mean, as soon as we realised, if we push it back one more year, we'll line up with that was a choice.
Yeah.
But it also meant that it gave us a bit more time to raise a bit more money, so we could put more money into some of the production elements of it.
And when was the point where you knew, right, we're in the funding process?
When the Arts Council gave us the grant. Actually, there was a couple of stages of that. One was when we got our main sponsor on board, which was South African Tourism Board. We sort of knew we had the funding before that, but having them gave security to some other people. And then the point at which we knew that we could do some other things like this tour and we knew that we would have enough money to do all the things that we wanted to do, was when we got the Arts Council grant. And it was amazing because we were an unknown company, and it was fantastic to have that support from both South African Tourism Board, i.e. the South African government, and to have money from the British government in a very substantial, big, meaningful way. Yeah. So that meant a lot, really.
Yeah, so collaboration and funding as well as artists.
Yeah, totally.
And you obviously travelled to South Africa and worked with Ladysmith at Mombasa. How was that experience?
Oh my goodness, it was amazing. It was humbling and incredible and life-changing and all of those things that people say that it really, really, really was. And it happened in 2 stages. So we went out to South Africa in 2010 to start it, and it was culminating, we were developing the material that was going to culminate in a presentation of a sort of workshop, really, at the Royal Opera House. And I had prepared a lot of material, and their manager had given me some tips on what I should do to prepare, just in that he said prepare as much as you can.
Yeah, of course.
And I referenced a lot of things that to me were interesting, and I listened to absolutely every single South African, every single Mambazo album I could get my hands on, and also listened to lots of things like obviously Miriam Makeba, Hugh Masekela, just lots, and other CDs I picked up that I didn't know who they were. And I went about it in different ways, but I created lots of different ideas on the piano, some that were 2-bar phrases, some that was a kind of melody line.
To bring something to the table.
Exactly. And in the end, really, that was how it started, really. It was because if I'd gone into the room and just like, it wouldn't have worked. And it was also, I think, because I'd really done my prep to know, or to how I felt was going to be best to join them. So it was more about me going to them and thinking about what I would add. So not just adding piano for the sake of adding piano, but what can we do here that might make it different to what Mambazo do on their own.
Yeah.
And I think we achieved that. And there's a song called Uzizi, which was the first song that we wrote together, and it's really poignant, and it's quite a big moment in the show. And it's interesting because there was then an interview that was done with Joseph where he talked about what that song meant, and then we've used that audio from that interview within the show as well. So it's this really nice circular thing.
What does it mean?
Uzizi means it's like there are troubles and there are challenges in life, but you have to keep your focus and you have to keep going. And it's you push them aside and you just keep your goal.
And how many artists went with you?
To South Africa the first time. Well, the first time we went, it was myself and Pietra, and a choreographer that we initially started with, who is a very good choreographer, but it wasn't right. He was too balletic, and it wasn't the right language. And then filmmakers who came and documented it with us, which was so worth doing. It was really brilliant to do that. And Jonathan is lovely and he's very good, but he just didn't quite have the right things that were needed in order to join these two worlds together enough. And that in the end it led us back round to the person who we kind of wanted to approach in the first place, which was Mark Baldwin. So that's really good.
So working with Mark Baldwin, was it difficult for Ladysmith working on a more contemporary dance school? I mean, they must have been black and blue, were they?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Actually, Mark comes from Fiji, so he has that quite tribal thing in him, and
his mother, is that correct?
Yeah, yeah. Well, and he grew up in Fiji.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So it's not just a sort of ancestry thing. He lived there most of his life as up until his late teens, I think. So he and actually then worked with a tribal group in New Zealand, I think, with his company out there. So he does have a grounded language in him, which did mean he could translate that across. Also, Mark had a fantastic assistant choreographer, Debs Galloway, who really, really knew how to work with Mambazo to get ideas from them that then could be worked into it. And then she just knew how to workshop everybody together to get material that was very much together. So there's a part in the show where she paired Mambazo up with a dancer, and they created sort of a pas de deux that they come forward and they do together, and they're sort of doing the same thing, but obviously it's different because their facilities are different and their bodies are different. But it's fantastic, and that was what we always wanted. So in the end, we had all the right people in place by this point to achieve what we hoped we would achieve.
Sounds like quite a journey.
Oh, it was.
What did you learn from them? Did you notice how they looked after their voices over a long period of time? Was there anything that you particularly, their wealth of experience, is there anything that you particularly learned from them when you had working with them?
Well, firstly, it's been a complete honour to work with Mambazo, complete honour. And
of course.
It's about their experience, it's also about who they are as people, and it's also about what they mean to the world at large, and most importantly, it's about who they are as artists. And I did learn a lot from them. I learned a huge amount in a way that he probably has no idea about, from Joseph Shabalala, who is the most humble person ever, and Albert Masbuko. But then I learned different things from the sons, Joseph's sons, who are now leading the group. I think the biggest thing I suppose we learned was about how to build something, and how important it is to look after everybody, and I think one of the things I have learned along this process is how to be one of the leaders of a project like this. I mean, and that's not about hierarchy, but that is about, in the end, that Pietra and I had to raise all the funding, and people look to us to give them answers for things, if things are not comfortable, or if things are just basic things as well. People look to the people who, in the end, have paid for it all
and it's
to
tough
give them
being
answers.
in that position.
Yeah, and there's been quite a big learning curve, I think, of how to assume that role without at all, whilst maintaining complete diplomacy and respecting everybody and making sure that everybody has exactly what they need.
Okay, nice. So lastly, what's in store for Ella Spira, and what's in store for Ladysmith Flat Mambazo after the Inala Project? So 2015.
2015 Inala is continuing.
Okay.
We always imagined that this would be something that we hoped would have a long life, and it is already looking like it's going to. We've got bookings that we will be announcing soon for next year, and for 2016 already.
Fantastic.
And we're kind of looking onwards from that. Mambazo have a couple of things in the pipeline that they are thinking about doing. There's another little project I might do with Joseph Shabalala, possibly.
Keeping it under your hat.
Keeping it under the hat. Don't worry, you'll be the first to know.
Thank you.
And that I have a project that I'm in development with Wayne McGregor and Joel Cadbury on at the moment. But we're very keen that we make sure that we allow as much time and dedication as needs to be put into Inala to continue pushing it forward. So that is what's in store for us all next.
Fantastic. Well, I suppose from us, from Rhythm Passport, thank you very much for taking time out before a massive show to see us, and we're really looking forward to it. And congratulations.
Thank you.
Really,
Thank you for having me.
Congratulations on the whole project.
Thank you.